Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm so happy you are here. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. Life is slowly getting back to normal,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like.
Yep.
Where I'm at, I'm near in Vancouver, Washington, near Portland area. So um, we're slowly easing back into life, step
Yeah.
by step.
Yeah,
How
I
are you doing?
know. Yeah, I'm doing really well. It's been we're nearly back to normal. My little town is kind of everything's starting to open up really well. So yeah, that's really, really great. Amazing. And I think I'm in a pretty touristy town. So because the international travel is closed, I anticipate that our town will actually get really busy with local WA tourism and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So before we jump in, I'd love to know how you start your day.
Yes, absolutely. So I one of the most important things for me is to start the day with a little bit of quiet. So I use that time for affirmations and just kind of what do I have coming up in the day. And prayer is definitely an important part of my life. And then the other big thing that really is huge for me is some kind of movement. So just getting my body moving, the air, the blood circulation, all of that. So I've actually been walking with a couple gals, and we just commit to each other to meet and walk. And now that we can kind of meet in person again, we were actually calling each other on the phone and talking to each other on headphones as we walk through our neighborhoods during
Yeah.
social distancing. So it's kind of nice to have walking partners in person again. So that's how I start my day.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so lovely. I love that you were still keeping the connection going in that in the social distancing time too. That's really great.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'd love you to just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Absolutely. So, I am a mom, a wife, I am a caregiver, and I'm also a small business owner. So, I own a company called Silver Keys Media, and I work specifically with business owners and entrepreneurs to help them really build a strong foundation for their visual brand story and then how to translate that visually. So I am a photographer and videographer and love just to help either create or help other business owners create for themselves that strong foundation. So
Mm,
that's kind of a lot of balls in the air, but it's a lot of fun and I get to do what I love to do.
yeah, amazing. And how did you discover that passion for that?
Well, I've always, for as long as I can remember as a kid, have had a camera in my hand and have really been fascinated with kind of the visual or the performing arts. I was blessed to be raised in a family that really supported the arts. Both my parents have artistic interests, and so it was really fostered from childhood. Got into more of the business and marketing side of things just purely from, I think, taking something that might be more difficult to apply just as, I'm going to be a photographer and go out and just do just that, which can be difficult in itself. But being able to take and pair it with working with business owners and marketing has been a lot of fun. So I did get a degree in broadcast communications, so had kind of that journalism background, and that's been kind of really helpful to kind of marry everything together.
Amazing. And so what's the legacy that you want to leave?
Oh, that is a big question. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is I've worked with youth on and off over the years, so middle school, high school, and I really would love a legacy of some kind of an organization that helps to just offer the ability for that age group to experience different ways of expressing themselves and fostering the ability to do so. I've done a lot of theater kind of outreach with that age group, and just putting the ability for, a student to become just in a different mindset where they can let out something that's going on, whether it's something that's just normal teenage angst, or they have a really difficult story to tell. That ability to do it creatively, I think, really allows a lot more communication to start happening. So that's kind of one of the legacies that I would love to leave behind at some point.
That's so beautiful. Do you work with students now, or it's something you're working towards doing?
Yeah, I've kind of taken a break with working with students to kind of get my business foundation built so that I would have the ability to run a business and have then the flexibility to bring that back in. I do, however, work and bring students or college age into positions when I can in my business or in some of the kind of fun creative projects I do on the side for like independent film. Bring in youth or college age that can just, if they want to be there to learn, be able to teach them and have them just be around something they want to learn about, and that creative outlet for them. So definitely building towards having something a little bit more formal and organized in the near future.
Amazing. And so you mentioned like you wanting to help people with their story and doing that.
Mhm.
Why does everyone need a story? Well,
Yeah. Well, it's because we all have our own story, and
mhm,
it is, each one of us brings a unique perspective through our experience, whether it's something that we bring from our childhood that we've overcome, or it is something that we're passionate about, that we want to share that experience with others so they are there, either are excited and passionate about the same end goal, or so that someone doesn't feel alone in the world, that someone else has gone through something the same. And so I think sharing a story, whether it's personal or business, is so important. And when it comes to, I mean, they've shown even in marketing, like research, that when a business shares stories versus just straight marketing or selling, that more people are attracted to that story and
mm,
attracted to those connections because they're able to see that business in a personal, relatable way. And I think that applies to just all of us as individuals, that when we are bold enough to share, then we often find that we are not alone, or that we can impact and make a change in our own culture and our own community. So that's
mm.
part of, I think, why I'm so passionate about it, is I know how it's helped me sharing my stories in life, and I know other people just need the confidence, I think, to know how to do so.
Yeah, and what if someone feels like they don't really have a story, like you know, they don't recognize or haven't been able to identify the uniqueness of their story? How can they kind of flesh it out and bring that to the surface to share?
Yeah, actually, one of the exercises that I have given, and actually just recently taught a workshop talking about personal stories, is taking some reflective time to just look back on your story timeline, like your life, like what were a huge shift or a change in your life that made you maybe change the path of the direction you were headed, or maybe you had an incident happen sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's not, but those things impact who we are and change who
Mm.
we are and change how we see the world. And those are the things that start to create a story for us, start to create that narrative. Because if we trace things back to kind of looking at that whole timeline of our life, we often see those moments in time that changed where we are today or changed who we have become. So
Mm.
that's usually the first starting point for someone identifying their story. Is usually they say they don't have a story because they're afraid to tell it. They don't know how to tell it. They don't know how to gather it in a way that they feel they're confident in. And it's really just identifying that pinpoint to then start exploring, how that changed their lives.
Mm. Yeah, I really love that. It's really useful. And I'm interested. So, someone who they don't have a business, that maybe just, want to share their personal story.
Mhm.
Where do they share it, and why is that so important?
Well, one of the things that a personal story can really help with is it can help if you're involved with an organization or a cause. So maybe you haven't stepped out yet and haven't found that exact cause that you want to, you know, align yourself with. But your story, you find, keeps coming back to the same theme or the same passions that you have. When you start to align yourself with a cause, you can actually take your story and start sharing it in that type of a platform. Other ways that people can share their story is just start to write it down. Most people don't want to get up on a stage. They don't want to go on live. They don't want to record it. But by documenting your story and writing about it, either on a blog or just, even if it's just a journal to start with, it's a good way to get it down on paper. And then you kind of decide, what can I do with this story that could possibly be helpful? How could this story maybe help with someone else? And it might not even be formal, like a formal sharing, like a publishing an article or anything. It could simply be that once you formulate your story and you have it here and you have it here, when you're working with, like, for example, when I work with youth, my stories I can share and impart to them because it's here and it's here and I've kind of thought it through, and it just becomes natural for you to be able to share and help others through shared experience.
So true. And I've really, um, found that that's so relevant for me. Like in my own story, everything that's happened to me, I've really, at first I didn't really realize that my story meant anything, and I slowly just kind of went back into it and um, got clear on what it was. And it's really, for me, in my personal life, it shaped how I show up with other people. It's really, I love how you mentioned the causes, because the things that I'm passionate about are really based on my own story, and that also flows through into my business. Um, can you share how your story has influenced your business?
Absolutely. So my story really comes down to when I was a kid and I was growing up. I had my mom actually put me into performing arts partially because I had some physical issues going on as a child. And because she, she simply chose something that she thought would help me just physically.
Mm-hmm.
And she put me into dance and she put me into performing arts so that I would just have the ability to move and I would have the ability to have some kind of formal exercise as a kid. And because of that, I think that was really a huge part, being in involved and exposed as a young child to telling a story. So I took ballet and I took several other forms of dance. And you start to learn even as a young child. I love music. I'm not a musician. I can't play. I tried. Not not who I am. But I love music, and I love closing my eyes and just seeing the story or seeing a piece unfold. And that was something I think that really sparked in me as a child the power that a story has, even
Mm,
unspoken, that just music can have a story. But then when you put something else to that, either movement or pictures or, some kind of creative piece, that it starts to unfold in a way that just is magical, but it also can be very powerful to tell a story that's hard to tell in words. And I've, over time in youth and into college, and then of course working with youth myself, being able to tell a story even without words is so amazing. And there's so much therapy in it, because you can have an impact with, and talk about difficult things in an essence in a way that's non-threatening through representation of images and movement and artwork. It can tell that story. So that's kind of something that really highly shaped what I do, what I've always had a passion to do for a living, and gave me the courage to create my own business, and to then in turn work with other business owners to help them have a similar courage in their own business. But I also use it working with nonprofits. I love working with nonprofits in my community to help them. I donate my time and give them the tools that they may not be able to afford, just because they, are usually a lot more limited in what they can do. So that's a really huge part, I think, of foundational to my story as in what I do for a career now.
amazing. Yeah, I love what you said there about music and stuff. And it reminds me when I was a little kid, one of the first, um, I think it must have been a CD or something, my dad got me was Peter and the Wolf, the
Mhm.
classical version. So that, and it tells like the story, but there's no words, but it's just all the different instruments. And that was really impactful in my life as a little kid, and taught me about really listening to the story without having to speak it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I really love that. Um, and so, how do you help people now?
Well, one of the key things that I work with either my clients, or I've worked, like I said, I will sometimes do workshops that take the storytelling, just to anyone and everyone, a non-business owner per se. First is just clarity. And kind of like you mentioned, or we were talking with, not really thinking your story is important, or not knowing exactly what it is about who you are that anyone would care to hear.
Mm,
Well, when you start clarifying what makes you unique and what your unique experience is, you do start to see that. And it's also the confidence. I really work on mindset of, this isn't being boastful or tooting your own horn or whatever you want to call it, being arrogant. When you call out who you are and how you are unique, and I call it your awesome sauce. When you have that awesome sauce that you identify and say, no, this is what the unique blend that makes who I am, and it makes, someone either working with me or engaging with me in an organization or whatever it is, then the confidence starts to emerge.
mm,
And once you have that confidence, then you can truly start tapping into telling a story and seeing it as a story. On the business side of things, I really work with business owners to see that their clients are part of their story. They're the people that they want to work with, that they love to work with, and they want to go alongside of in their business. As on the personal side, really seeing the audience in a way that they are the people they want to help or the people they want to make a difference in. Whether it's standing up on stage, or it's recording a podcast, or it's writing an article, the audience is all still the same. It's just, how are you delivering the message? How are you delivering the story? So that's kind of how I work with either my clients through my business or personally when I'm doing training or workshops to help in the community.
So how can someone connect their story to their client's story?
Their story to what?
Like their client or their target, or not their client, probably their target audience's story.
Yeah, so often as a business owner, or if you are working with a nonprofit, the people that you want to reach and make an impact with, you already have an identification with them typically. And usually it's because they have a problem or they're going through something that you've already gone through. There's a common thread. It may not be the exact thing that you've hit up against or the exact experience, but the feelings and the response is similar. And so by allowing your story, them to see you in your story, it helps them connect. And then that starts that relationship. So it's really about developing a relationship with your audience, regardless of how you're delivering your message. But if you can make that connection, that's where the magic starts to happen, and that's where people start to listen.
Yeah, totally. And in terms of confidence, so you mentioned confidence as well. Could you share a quick tool or something someone could, or a practice someone could do to help with their confidence? Because I feel like that can be such a hurdle. Just, I used to always get in my own way and feel really stuck and have that doubt about the value I could add. So
yeah, one great exercise that I've done myself and I work with others and encourage them to do as well is to take some time, and it might take a day or so, because the first time you start to do this, your brain wants to prevent you from seeing it for what it is, and that's writing down 50 things about you that you like or you love. And it doesn't have to be spectacular things. It can be simple. And when you start writing these things down, not only do they help you to see that value and that worth, but they also help you have confidence because they give you credibility. You all of a sudden have credibility when you thought you didn't. So it doesn't mean you have to have, maybe you don't have a bachelor's, or you never went to college, or maybe you didn't even finish high school. However, maybe your job experience or volunteer experience and life experience, those things that you've done there, they give you more credibility than someone who's been reading a book for 4 years and has never applied it in real life. And so you start to see yourself in a different picture and different light when you start to lay things down. And I'm really, although I do a lot of digital things, I'm very much about writing things down when it comes to some of these mindsets pieces. Yes, eventually you want to translate them into something digital that you might be able to share, but the physical action of writing something down, there's something about it that that physical touch between a pen and a paper, and you see it come out on the paper, there's just something about it that triggers in the brain. And just really, I think, helps to open your eyes to something different.
Yeah, I find I really love that, and that is such a useful exercise. I really think that's so valuable. What a great idea. And I love writing by hand. I find it can be hard to get that creativity to flow in the same way when you're typing. There's just
Yeah.
something about just getting it out, and sometimes it's hard to keep up, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it might be something that you need to take a couple days. So maybe if you do get up like I do in the morning, you write out 5 each day or 4 each day. You know, you don't have to write them all down at once. Space it out. But I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that most of us have is you get into that fear of that imposter syndrome, as people may have heard of. You feel like
Yeah.
I'm a fake. I can't, people aren't gonna trust me, or why would they listen to me? Well, there's 50 reasons why they might.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, trust is so important in story. So trusting yourself first,
Yeah.
so that others can trust you. All starts with you. That's so good. And so, what is a book that's changed your life?
A book that's changed my life. Well, there's one that I can think of off the top of my head, and that is The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And what I love about that book is that it pushes you to think much bigger than how we, actually what it does really is it reveals our limitations, our limiting beliefs, our limiting habits. And it shows us how if we just push ourselves beyond this limit that we're putting on ourselves, that we can think beyond what we even ever thought possible and achieve it. And it really lays out how to do that and how you can start actually applying that, actually start being successful in dreaming big, thinking big, and then actually, putting that to action, pushing yourself further.
Oh, that sounds so good. I am going to be looking that one up, adding it to my massive collection of books.
I know.
They're just never ending. And who's been one of your most impactful teachers?
Well, I would say that my husband actually has been. We've been together for a long time, and we met in high school and got married young. And he has always been a huge thinker and a huge reader. He's very much about data and all of the important little details. And I'm not always as big of a reader. I do read, but not as much as he does. And what I've loved about our relationship and how he approaches things is that he challenges me, but not in a negative way. He pushes me to really think. And he's really also behind that put his faith in me, that belief in what I can do. And actually the reason why I quit corporate America and I'm full-time in my business is purely because he said, you're gonna regret never at least trying. So why don't you just try and see what happens? So I think that was one of the biggest things for me, is just to have someone have that much faith in me to just step off and do and try, and now I'm doing it.
Especially at that point where you're at that like precipice to jump, like having that support and people having your back. I see so many people who don't have that, and I told the opposite, like, don't take the leap, stay in the safe job, do the safe
Oh
thing,
yeah,
and they give up on their dreams and let go of their dreams. So, he sounds like such a blessing. That's
he
so
is.
amazing. I feel blessed too. I have really a lot of support with my partner too. So, it really makes a difference.
It
And
does.
what?
It absolutely does.
Yeah, really. And what do you wish you'd known when you first started out?
Let's see. I think, and I actually learned this here recently with COVID, has been
Mhm.
one of the biggest things for me, is that perfection is or no, I'm saying it backwards. Having something done and accomplished is better than perfection. I put together I just felt compelled to put something together to help the community. So I put together a 5-part webinar series, and I just put it out there and I offered it and I got it together really quickly.
Mm,
It's based on stuff that I already knew, but had to gather it and had to put it together and put the work in. And it wasn't perfect, but it was done, and I was able to then deliver that in like a week and a half, really quick turnaround. Whereas I've had another course that I've been working on for a while that I didn't have that pressure. I didn't have the push to get something done really quickly. And now I kind of go, huh, okay,
mm,
done is truly better than perfect. And I can always fix something later if
mm,
it's, I mean, I like to put things out in a polished way, but my level and the level of, what's okay to go out and be done is sometimes it's my own tripping point. It's my own
mm.
way of sabotaging myself, I think. So that's probably the biggest thing, is that sometimes just getting something done and accomplished and delivered and out there to share is so much better than like just spinning in it and thinking that you can improve it when it's just sitting on a shelf or something and no one else is benefiting from it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think it reminds me of our stories. Like, our stories can be really messy as well. Um, and so I bet the webinar, I'm sure the webinar that you put out at the last minute that felt really rushed and pressured, I bet it was amazing and had a big impact. Whereas, um, comparatively, like, I'm the same. If I just leave something and I just kind of don't have that pressure and I'm going over and over and over, it either never gets out or it doesn't have the impact of something that I just like dive into really fast and put
Yeah.
everything into and just get out there. Um, that's a really, yeah, I really resonate with that. And is there anything you would do differently?
Hmm. I probably just would have quit my corporate job sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I mean, I was grateful for a secure job, but and it wasn't that I didn't like my job, but I think having just, having faith in myself and at least trying has been amazing. And if I'd done it sooner, who knows where I'd be in
Yeah.
the scope of my business, as it's been growing and scaling. So I think taking risk on yourself, regardless of what that means, that can mean a lot of different things for people. But taking a positive risk on yourself, really what can happen except for, okay, that didn't work. Is there a different way it can work? Yep, that can work. Or nope, this is just not going to work this way. Let's back up and, rethink it. I mean, I think that's true for anyone who's ever taken a risk for any great thing. If you really get down to the back of their, how this all happened, typically they failed a lot and it
Mm,
was okay. You can
yeah.
fail forward and fail eventually into where it works.
Yeah, I'd like to think of failures as successes because you always learn something, um, and there's always growth in the perceived failures.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and what is what is a project that you would love to work on or be known for if you had no barriers, no constraints, and could do anything?
Well, one of the things that I'm actually been working on, just kind of on the side, is independent film project,
Mhm.
and have have had a couple projects over the last few years just as kind of passion projects and fun. So I would love to get a completed feature film um, done and produced and distributed, and just have that kind of something I can put on my on my little resume of like, oh, she did that too.
Uh,
um, I think it's just that creative side of me that loves being able to shape a story. And I love acting, but I also love working with actors and having them help tell the story and get to
mm.
see it unfold. So um yeah, I think that's really something that I would love to have be out there.
Oh, so cool. In a former life before I was in doing all this stuff, I studied screenwriting. So my master's is in that. And while I love what I do, I always still have this urge to write a feature, and just go back to that a little bit at times because it's just, there's something so, it just, I don't know, you would understand that creativity and the it just lights you up inside. There's something so magic about it. It's very different to what I do in coaching and stuff anyway for me.
Oh,
So
absolutely. It's something that I've always told my husband. I'm like, I have to have that one creative outlet. You have to give me one little outlet for that, because otherwise if I don't have it,
yeah,
then I'm not. And because even though I do it for a living, I get to be creative. Yeah, like you said, it's not the same. It's not that like fun passion that you just know
yeah,
that may or may not,
yeah,
make it anywhere, but it's just it gets to get what's in here out on
yeah.
paper or out on the screen.
Yeah, totally. I really relate. I really relate to that. And what does elevating your life and soul mean to you?
Oh, that to me is definitely a work in progress, but it for me is really trying to become the best person that I possibly can. Um, I'm I don't want to say I'm a religious person, but I'm a person of faith. So having that faith side and that soul side really is something to me that is a daily process. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel
Me too.
blessed that I have the ability to kind of work through that day by day, and that I have grace for that. But for me, it's trying to approach life in a way that I can see everyone's story and appreciate their story, even if it's not something that is my story, that I see their
Mm,
story and I can take that experience and add it to kind of the lens I look through in life. And how can that improve how I treat other people? How can that improve how, the legacy that I leave, or towards how I continue. I mean, my son's an adult, but you know, continue to counsel him and to help him and my family. So to me, that's what I think what elevating my life and my soul really means, is just
mm.
that daily process of how can I become better.
Thank you for sharing. I love it. Um, and do you have any final thoughts or um, words of wisdom that you would love to share before we wrap up?
Well, I would say that one of the biggest gifts that I've given to myself, and I encourage others to do so, is taking and write it in your calendar. Because if you don't write it in your calendar, it doesn't happen. Or write a note, whatever it is to make
Yeah.
sure you do it. But take time, even if it's 15 minutes a day, to just be still and to just reflect and to breathe. We've been given a gift with COVID, even though COVID's been kind of a crazy nature of things, of having some pause. And I'm hoping we learn from that pause
Me
of
too.
that we need that pause in our life. And as we get back to being busy and as we get back to moving so fast, that we take that little nugget of time every day, whether it's in the morning or before bed or whatever it needs to be, and just give yourself that gift to just reconnect with yourself and your brain and your breath and all of that.
Yeah, I love that. I was thinking about all of those things during COVID too, because it was such an opportunity to slow down, and there's so much reward and so much joy and inner peace and all of the things that can come from slowing down and pausing and taking that time. So
Yeah.
I really hope going forward that we learn and integrate that into our future too.
Absolutely.
And how can people connect with you? What do you have on offer? I'd love you to share all that amazing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can connect with me via email is probably the easiest, and that's Amanda, Amanda, at silverkeysmedia.com. You can just send me a message. I am on social media, so you can find me on Facebook if you want and connect with me that way, or Instagram. Both those are at Silver Keys Media. And I would love to offer to anyone who's listening, if you would like to hop on a Zoom call and we can do a 30-minute strategy session. I usually, if you schedule one, I just have you let me know what you want to focus on, and that could be just getting on track with telling your story. What is a strategy for that? Or maybe you own a business and you're struggling with a certain aspect of how to visually market it. What I try and do is just give you some action steps to kind of get you past that sticking point and on your way. And then, hopefully that'll help you have that forward momentum and set a goal or two to get that success.
Amazing. I will put all the details in the show notes as well, so it's
Yay.
easy for people to connect with you. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. It's been such a joy. I'm so grateful for you coming on today.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it and really appreciate you inviting me and taking time to chat.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have an amazing day.
Okay, I will too.